Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are from. I'm Hilmy Ishak. I'm the Assistant Treasurer of Sri Lanka Evaluation Association, and I'm your moderator for today. I'm pleased to welcome you all on behalf of the Sri Lanka Evaluation Association for today's webinar on the essential concepts of monitoring, evaluation, and learning in development programs. This is the first webinar for 2025 of a long list of interesting topics that are identified and lined up for 2025. I'm glad that the speaker for today has compiled an interesting content to meet today's objective. Before we move further, I'd like to kindly remind the non-ground rules of webinars again for the benefit of everyone. Please keep your microphone and your video muted throughout this webinar. We will have a 30-minute presentation by our speaker, followed by a Q&A session where you can post your questions, concerns, and clarifications. So you are kindly encouraged to post your questions in the chat box. We will take them up for discussions after the presentation. Now, as per our agenda for the day, I'm pleased to invite Mr. Jinendra Kothalawala to make the opening remarks. Mr. Jinendra is the present president of the Sri Lanka Evaluation Association. Mr. Jinendra, over to you.
Thanks, Mr. Hilmy, for the introduction. On behalf of the Sri Lanka Evaluation Association as the president, I would like to warmly welcome all of you to this experience sharing webinar. For this webinar series, we were conducting every month, third week of Thursdays, this webinar series. We will be starting from January this month, the series again. For today webinar, around 150 participants has been registered. They may be joining soon from different countries, more from outside Sri Lanka, and around 25% government officers, as well as INGO, NGO, and the private sector participants. While thanking for joining for this webinar to all of you, I would like to take 1 minute to explain the purpose of this webinar series. We have few objectives in this webinar series to provide a forum to exchange information and for linking institutions and individuals interested in theory and practice of evaluation, as well as promote, advance, and disseminate the theory, practice, and use of evaluations. So even what we are thinking is in the future, a lot of government officers has been registered, but their preferred time was 10:30 to 11:30 Indian Standard Time. So we are thinking whether we can think about some other time slots for interested participants for some other times. Even the foreign participants preferred some other time. So we are thinking some alternative sessions. So while thanking again everyone for joining for this webinar, I would like to thank again for the academic committee who organized and delivering this webinar series. And now I would like to invite to our SLEvA Joint Secretary, Mr. Hilmy, to proceed with this rest of the webinar session. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jinendra. Thank you very much for starting the first webinar for 2025 with that wonderful remark. And today's topic, I think, aligns with the present dialogue and agenda of the governance and citizens right around the world, where everyone is looking after accountability with regard to the initiatives in development, either through own funding or through donor funding. So we take this opportunity to enlighten our participants in the basic concepts To do that, we have with us Sandamali Ariyarathna. Sandamali is the speaker for today. I'm happy to introduce her to you all, and she's the present editor of the Executive Council of Sri Lanka Evaluation Association. She is a practitioner in monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So she's a specialist. So we are very lucky to hear her thoughts in terms of the basic concepts with regard to monitoring, evaluation, and learning in the development programs. Sandamali, now the floor is for you for the next 30 minutes to enlighten us on this topic. Over to you, Sandamali.
Thank you very much, Hilmy, for the introduction. And hello, everyone, again. So thank you for joining us today. Pasidu, next slide, please. So before I begin, I would like to unpack today's topic. So as you can see, I have bolded certain terms that I felt most important when it's come to the topic. So essentially, something that you need to keep in mind, or key things when we are talking about monitoring, evaluation, learning in development programs. Next slide. So let me unpack these 4 terms that I have picked from our topic today. So the development sector is the broad field that includes initiatives to improve the social, economic, and environmental conditions in the world. Its most basic form aims to uplift societies, reduce poverty, improve healthcare, guarantee universal access to education, encourage sustainability, and even promote inclusive growth. And most probably, one may remember NGOs or INGOs or UN organizations when the term development sector comes. But remember, it's not only about NGOs or international organizations, but intergovernmental organizations such as United Nations, European Union, World Trade Organizations, and then most importantly, government institutions. Plus charities and social movements are also working towards to the various development goals through their initiatives, through their programs, or through their projects. So that is the development programs. And when we talk about monitoring, let me talk about all 3 aspects. First, monitoring, evaluation, and learning, or we call it MEL, in development programs involves collecting, analyzing, and analyzing the data to access the progress of the program. It helps identify areas that need improvements and communicate the program's achievements to the stakeholders, including donors, participants, and the beneficiaries of those programs. So the monitoring actually is an ongoing process which tells us that the initiatives or the development programs are right on the track to achieve expected goals of that program or the project. On the other hand, evaluation shows the impact or the change that made by the development initiatives as per the goals or the results that we are set in the programs, and it takes set intervals within the project timeline or the program timeline. And learning, of course, provides the understanding of challenges, failures, and bottlenecks, and even successes, achievements, which needs to be addressed, which needs to be celebrated within the process of reaching goal. And learning, of course, support us to understand what are the areas that we need to improve when we are having different, or when we are having again phases within the program or a new development project. Basically, all 3 aspects, monitoring, evaluation, learning, should complete in a systematic manner. You can't ad hocly do monitoring, you can't ad hocly do evaluation, or you can't even ad hocly think about learning. So you have to have a system or a proper methodology to continue monitoring, evaluation, learning in development programs. Next slide. why we need to do MEL for development programs, or what is the importance of MEL in development programs. Identify strengths and weaknesses. M&E results can help to identify the strengths and weaknesses of a project or a program. By identifying these areas where a program is performing well, we can uplift that, we can celebrate that, or we can practice it more. And those that needs to be improved, which we can address. We can take alternative actions to address the challenges that we are facing. And most importantly, program staff can make targeted interventions based on the M&E findings or the results that improve the program outcomes. Make data-informed decisions. M&E results provide data that can be used to make evidence-based decisions, whether it's for field mobilizers who are implementing the activities or the interventions within the program, or senior management who takes decisions at higher level, whether to continue the program implementation as it is, or allocate resources wisely, or even strategic planning. So M&E data or the M&E results will lead you to take informed decisions. Adjust program strategies. M&E results can be informed adjustments to program strategies. If a program is not achieving its intended outcomes, its intended goals or the results, program implementation staff can use M&E results to identify the areas where changes that needs to be made, so that they will see intended outcomes or the results will be achieving due course. Share results with stakeholders, your donors or beneficiaries, participants, like-minded organizations. Sharing M&E results with them can help to build buy-in and support for the program improvement efforts. Plus, it will help for you to celebrate your achievement. Build accountability. M&E results can help to build accountability for program outcomes by tracking program performance over the time. Program staff can demonstrate progress towards the program goals and justify resource allocations based on the M&E results. Learn and adapt. And that would be, I would say, personally, I believe this is the most important part when it comes to M&E. M&E results can provide a learning opportunity for program staff, for donors, for funders, or even beneficiaries, stakeholders, plus like-minded organizations. By analyzing the data and identify what worked well and what did not work well, program staff or other stakeholders can adapt program strategies in future or even current ongoing program strategies to make improvements over the time. Next slide, please. So knowing those importance within the MEL or M&E in development programs, let's talk about essential concepts. For my easy preference to this presentation, I divided essential concepts into two parts or the categories. MEL plan or a MEL framework. Setting up a framework for monitoring, evaluation, and learning is a first step, as I believe, in starting the MEL in a project or in a program. And as we all know, if we do not have a plan, we do not know where we are going. For an example, if we want to travel from destination A to destination B, today's world, we simply open the Google map and see what would be the best path without making any hassle, how we can reach. Just like that, for monitoring, evaluation, learning, you need a plan or a framework. And second part, I would like to talk about MEL techniques and processes. Of course, in plan, you will describe what would be your plan for those techniques and processes. But for this presentation, I would like to take those separately and talk about how these plan techniques and processes can put it into the implementation of monitoring evaluation learning. Next slide, please. So in a MEL framework, so in a MEL plan, what would be the things that we need to think about? So as we all know, in a development project, we do have goals, we do have projects, outcomes, results that we are intended to achieve, outputs, and set of indicators. So in our project design, we do have those things explicit or mentioned in the design. Same as that, in the MEL framework, we need to understand or we need to mention what are those. Not only what are those, but what does define by a particular section or a particular item. For an example, we need to understand in the MEL framework, we need to understand what would be our goals looks like, or what is the definition of key terms within the goals, objectives, outcomes, outputs, indicators. And when it's come to indicators, definition is very much important, because so that in the plan, when we explain about what we are going to measure in terms of indicator, anyone who refers that plan, anyone who's involved within the project would understand what are the things that you need to measure in order to see the achievements of your goals, of your objectives or outcomes. And it's important to identify your data points or data requirements. And what are the points that those data will be generated. For an example, you might conduct a set of awareness or set of trainings for teachers to say uplift their skills on child-centered education. So in that case, your indicator might be simply might be the number of teachers trained in particular training. So where are you going to get those information? So what would be the data generating point? Is it the provincial level that you are going to take? So in that case, provincial or the field mobilizers at the training point, training venue. So these are the certain things that you need to put, understand or explain in your framework when it's come to data generating points. And define how data collection will happen, plus data management plan as well. So when it's come to data management, where who would be collect these data, and where would be those data stored, and who's going to analyze, define, and what would be the analysis methods? What are the data collection tools that one can be used for that particular data points which they wanted to generate? So these things needs to be defined in the framework, and identify define target group involvement for MEL. So when it's come to monitoring, evaluation, learning, of course, most of the development programs have MEL personnel. They do have their MEL staff, but MEL staff aren't the only team that is involved in for MEL. Most of the time, program staff or the implementation staff of the development programs, projects, are very much involved in on monitoring, evaluation, learning, whether it's a collection of monitoring data, understanding monitoring data, what monitoring data says through certain analysis that done by monitoring teams, and take decisions. So it's important in your MEL framework or a MEL plan to understand or to explain how target group, how stakeholders, project staff will involve in the steps of monitoring, evaluation, learn. And when it's come to stakeholders and target groups, it's not only the project staff who involve in MEL. Often in projects or the development programs, community members who are involved, or maybe like the beneficiaries or the participants of the program are involved in monitoring evaluation learning. Nowadays, we do have a concept called community monitoring, and these are the things that you need to explain. I mean, if your program or the project is looking for community monitoring aspects, then you need to mention that in your plan or the framework. Next slide, please. Also, in your MEL framework, you need to identify and define your stakeholder involvement. So how your stakeholders will be involved for MEL. Like say, for an example, NGOs or INGOs would implement programs which are always, not always, like most of the time, take partnership with government entities, institutions, especially when it's come to Global South. So when such involvement is there, in your MEL plan or in your MEL framework, you need to define how your stakeholders will be involved for monitoring evaluation learning. Sometimes how stakeholder involvement for the program might have, or the project might have defined very well in the design, but that doesn't mean you have to based on only that part when it's come to the involvement of stakeholders for the MEL. It's always ideal if you can explain their involvement, not only partners or the stakeholders, but donors as stakeholders. How donors would do monitoring evaluation learning. Explaining that in your MEL framework would be good for the staff who are implementing the project. So the MEL framework is not only a plan that the MEL staff will hold, but it needs to be disseminated among the project staff, so everybody will be on the same page in terms of planning, monitoring, evaluation, learning for your project. And in the MEL framework, it's important to say how learnings would generate within the implementation of the project, and how these findings, MEL findings, learnings will be communicated among different stakeholders, whether it's your donors, government institutions, or whether it's beneficiaries, participants. And then it's better to schedule a monitoring, like establishes monitoring and evaluation schedule, like when you are going to take data, like collect data, like say for an example, for output indicators, are you going to collect output indicator data monthly? Are you going to collect them quarterly? Or are you going to collect information related to your outcome indicators annually or once in 6 months? Whatever the schedule that you are going to put, whatever the timeline basically needs to be mentioned in your MEL plan. Same as the evaluation schedule, like when is you are going to set up baseline, whether it's like first quarter of the first year, or whether like before, like whether sort of are you going to use it in a very beginning as a desk review, or whether you have had a preliminary study before the project, so are you going to use it? I mean, those needs to be explained or defined in your MEL plan. And when it's come to evaluations, whether mid-evaluation take place within the project period, if it is so, what would be the time, whether it's 3 years time, 4 years time, depending on the your project timeline. And then the end evaluation, and whether it's a process evaluation, whether it's a impact evaluation, and outcome evaluation, and those things you can mention in your plan, so that you have an idea, your project team have an idea how you need to make sure your resources, your time, your money for the monitoring, evaluation, and learning. I think estimated budget is something like that, how you can define your resources in terms of financial manner, and then explain roles and responsibilities of monitoring and evaluation learning. Not only again stressing, not only monitoring evaluation learning staff, but the roles and responsibilities held by other implementation staff. Next slide, please. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, just post over there in the chat box. As I said, I would like to take this milk techniques and processes separately. But please keep in mind, you will be explaining your techniques and processes in your mail plan, mail framework. I mean, you can have a mail mandate for the project where you explain everything. But still, when you are implementing your monitoring, evaluation, learning task, these techniques and processes are very much important. So I would like to take it separately and discuss. So when you are thinking about your data collection methods and templates, it's important to understand what would be the data collection methods. I mean, you have to mention this in your plan. Plus, when you are implementing, you have to make sure you are equipped with everything that you need to do monitoring, evaluation, learning. So what would be your data collection methods? Whether those are qualitative data collection methods or quantitative data collection methods or mixed methods. So in terms of quantitative, you can think about surveys. And in terms of qualitative, you may go with interviews, focus group discussions, and even mixed method. Like you might think that for this particular outcome indicator, set of outcome indicators, you need to do a survey, plus you need to do set of interviews and focus group discussions to validate the process. And you will be doing it probably within every 6 months of a year. And then what are the templates that you are going to use? So if it is a survey templates, how would your template would look like? What would be the questions that you are going to ask? So this is what I'm telling, like, of course, in mail plan, you will explain, you are going to use a mixed method, for an example, surveys and interviews, but you may not put in up all the templates. You may not draft your survey they are in the mail plan. But actually, when you are implementing your mail plan, you need to put up your templates. You need to make sure that your surveys are ready whenever you want to collect data. And you need to have your interviews, like interview schedules, for an example, or the guiding questions for the focus group discussions or the interviews. And then you know like who to reach. You need to understand who would be your target group for particular survey, particular, basically who this goes with the data point. So if you are thinking of collecting data for your quantitative indicator through a survey, then you should know who would be your target group, which should be explained over there in the mail plan, plus the process. And then what would be data analysis methods and tools? So if it is a quantitative data that you are collecting, descriptive statistic methods. Do you need to think about inferential statistics? And if it is qualitative data that you are thinking about, what would be your qualitative analysis methods? Whether the content analysis, whether thematic analysis. So these are the things that you need to think about and define before you start your data collection processes. And then what would be the tools that you will be using for data analysis? Can be statistical packages, or it can be qualitative applications or the softwares that they are like widely available to analyze qualitative data. And then most importantly, data visualization. You have to think about how your data will be presented. And then the data management, where you are going to store, and thinking about ethics of data, where whether you are storing information will be secured. Are you going to make sure your confidentiality of your data? I mean, these are the things when you are thinking about the processes of monitoring, evaluation, learning. And again, think about geographical information system, GIS, how GIS involves analyzing and presenting data in spatial format. I mean, these are the things that you can think about when you are thinking the processes of information data flow to your flow on your programs. And then the reporting and reporting influence. So how you are going to report your information, your data to specific target groups, whether it's your senior management, whether it's your donor, whether the beneficiaries, participants, media. So you have to make sure, remember, one report does not fit all the requirements or all these target groups. So you have to know your target group and think about how would be the processes that you will be follow for the reporting. And then the reporting influence, that is mostly the using MEL findings, MEL data. So you may need to think about the processes of reporting influence. Let me talk that widely in next slide. So the interpreting and reporting findings is something very much important when it's come to monitoring, evaluation, learning. Of course, for monitoring and evaluation learning, monitoring teams, if you talk to your monitoring teams in your programs, they might have like rich with lot of data, information. But this process, interpreting and reporting findings, involves making sense of the data and presenting it a way that is clear, concise, and actionable. And maybe like some key considerations when interpreting the reporting, identify key findings. When you collect your information in terms of monitoring, evaluation, learning, you will end up with many information, many findings. But then identify key findings to disseminate or even to analyze. And then these should be the most significant and relevant to your program achievements, results, that answers your that shows how your program objectives, outcomes has been either achieved or how you have contributed towards to the achievement of those findings. Those objectives or the results. And analyze the findings not only with the data that you do have, but think about the context as well. So it's important to understand in what context that you have collected this information when you are interpreting and when you are reporting those findings. Broader context of the environment, social, economical or political environment would be necessary when you are presenting your reports and when you are especially interpreting your findings. And use data visualization. Sometimes, not sometimes, like we all know, sometimes one para, if you simplify one para into a one chart or a graph, you will cause attraction from your audience than reading like para with 100 words. And nowadays, like data visualization, we talk about infographics, do data visualization, one-page documents. So this manner, people who reads your findings or people who are going to use your MEL findings will have a clear understanding in a concise manner. And interpretation of findings, it's important to interpret the findings, and may often MEL personnel would require support from program specialists, program people who has thematic understanding to interpret the findings and provide recommendations plus finding out of the report findings. Finally, with all this information, all this visualization, you need to report your findings in a clear, concise, and accessible manner. Why I took this separately, reporting M&E findings is an essential component for the M&E process and for the development programs. It's no point of having a lot of files in your cupboard or in your laptop folders with rich information if these information are not using for proper decision making. To take informed decision, right people needs to have a right amount of information in a concise and a clear manner. So I would like to end my presentation here sort of my knowledge sharing part here. So Hilmy, back to you. Thank you very much for your patient listening.
Thanks, Sandamali. Thank you so much for taking us through these very basic concepts, rather essential concepts of monitoring, evaluation, and learning in development programs. And now we have time for answering questions, rather responding to concerns and so on. Meanwhile, while I invite today's participants to post if they have any questions, I would just like to take participants through the key points that Sandamali has expressed during the past 30 minutes, as we had number of participants joining a little later. Anyway, we heard that key terms that were introduced by Sandamali initially about the development programs, monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Then I think importance of MEL for development program was something that is very interesting. Among the list of many importance, I think I picked up identifying strengths and weaknesses and making data informed decisions, which is one of the most important thing. And then an important other aspect is more of learn and adapt. This is where I think even initially it was highlighted, like the importance of MEL. So it's not merely finding fault, rather it is getting an opportunity to learn and then to adapt the changes that are required for the next cycle. And then Sandamali talked about in essential concepts, basically in two broad contexts, or rather two broad aspects, like MEL plan or MEL framework and MEL techniques and processes. So I think with those enlightenment, I'm sure our participants have concerns, questions, and so on. You are invited to post your questions in the chat box. Until we get some questions, Sandamali, I would like to raise a question like, we can produce a comprehensive list of components in a broader MEL plan, but if the priority and commitment is not in line with the MEL plan of an organization, agency, or a program, so what is the threat of that aspect, and how this could be addressed, or what can be done in that situation?
Thank you, Hilmy, for that question. One thing I would say, if you are not having a monitoring evaluation learning plan, you may not aware what you are going to monitor, what you are going to evaluate in terms of your development program. And you will be conducting set of activities as agreed with your donor, or as mentioned in your program design. But then in a point when you want to understand what are the impact, what are the change made through those initiatives that you have implemented, you may not know how to tell that, how to basically how to market your change, or how to own your change that you made. Like, say for an example, for NGOs, of course they are donor driven, so they are looking for money to implement their activities, so they may need that to impress their donors, tell that they have been doing changes, so that they would like to get more funding so that they can continue same effort. And on the other hand, they may not be able to tell you their communities, their participants who are involving in their programs to show that they have contributed to the certain changes of their community lives, whether it's social, whether political or economic life. And on the other hand, when it's come to government sector, government institutions, of course, they have their like tax money to implement these programs, but without knowing, without having a proper monitoring, evaluation, learning system, they may not be able to show their accountability to their taxpayers. Tell that now with your tax money, we have achieved this as a government. We have contributed to the uplift of social, economic, or political lives of citizens. And not only for taxpayers, even for citizens themselves, they will be able to show with their monitoring, evaluation, learning findings. So if you basically, to answer your question, if a project development sector, whoever the implementing body is, if they don't have a monitoring, evaluation, learning plan, and if they are not implementing monitoring and evaluation properly within their project, then it will be like rarely that you can tell what your change, what are the changes that you have contributed within the lives of community that you are working. Of course, you will be able to tell like how many programs that you have conducted, how many participants that you have trained in terms of like whatever the programmatic area that you are working on. But so what? I mean, question would be the so what? You have trained 100 or maybe like 10,000 of people, but then what's the impact? What's the change? So that question, to answer that so what question, you need monitoring, evaluation, learning.
Thank you. So to put it in a nutshell, you need this in order to show the world that you have made a change, or request the world that you need more resources to make more changes. Yes, we have a question. We have a question and we have a hand raise as well. Yes, we have 2 hand raises, and first we have one from Chandrika. Would you like to pose your question first, Chandrika?
Yeah,
Chandrika?
I am Sandamali. Yes, could you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can. Go ahead,
No,
Chandrika.
we can't hear a response. So, yes, Mr. Ranjit.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay.
Right. I first of all, I'd like to congratulate Sandamali for
Mr.
a
Ranjit?
very good presentation. One
Mr.
thing I
Ranjit
was
Tabru, you
concerned
raised
is,
your hand. You want
how
to
do you
make a question?
how do you share the learnings with others other than the stakeholders? Now, you touched on sharing with the stakeholders. Everybody is protective with their findings and particularly sharing. Now, also, people don't want to reinvent the wheel by doing the same thing and same mistakes. Is there a process where these things are recorded? So if a project happens in Pakistan, am I able to access it from here and make the necessary corrections?
Thank you, Mr. Trabru, asking that question. I mean, as of my knowledge, there is no like a central system to get this information. But then I would like to stress upon what you said. It's important to share our learnings, our findings among like-minded organizations. I was like touch upon it a little bit. Now, when it's come to organizations, non-governmental organizations, even government organizations, like with government to government, like when we are considering about global South government institutions, we all are in a point become partners, and we all are in a point become competitors. So for the same reason that we are becoming competitors, people tend to earlier, like the earlier stage of development sector, organizations or the institutions or the government tend to keep their learnings or keep their findings to themselves other than sharing with their donors or the stakeholders. But now, of course, everybody understands importance of sharing their experiences so that others who are willing to go on same path won't make the same mistake. As you said, we all kind of understand it's no point of reinventing the wheel. So for an example, I mean, let's take a simple example. When we have a disasters within our countries, where sometimes like everybody try to support one community, whereas some communities or some people who has experienced the disaster may not receive any support, any assistance. So organizations nowadays tend to, not only organizations, even government bodies, with the government bodies, they tend to make sure that their resources will be allocated effectively when it's come to DRR. Likewise, and some organizations, some like donor organizations, maintain their own systems, like publicly available systems. Say, for an example, USAID has a system called DEC, development clearance house, something like that. Let me post that in chat box, the website. So where any person can go over there and search for publicly available information, whether it's a project report, annual reports, or any learning brief, likewise. So likewise, different organizations, different intra-public organizations maintain their own way of information so that others can access and that others may not lead the same error. Thank you, Aranda, posting it. Development Experience Clearinghouse, DEC.
Thank you, Sandamali.
Thank you, Sandamali. We have a very straightforward question like, what are the requirements for the technical knowledge of a field monitor posed by Mr. V. Sokanathan? Would you like adding anything to that straight question?
Sure, Hilmy. Thank you for the question. Now, if I may understood it correctly, field monitor as sort of field mobilizer who will be doing his or her primary task in terms of implementation, but doing monitoring. So in that case, they might need to have a maybe like not big or a vast technical knowledge on monitoring, evaluation, learning, but they need to have an understanding about what they are going to monitor. Like say, for an example, when a program implementation person visits their community to implement set of activities, basically like say if it is a data collection template, say data collection template as attendance sheets, what are the main elements that the person needs to look in to have a quality data for the program requirement. Like say if it is an attendance sheets with a number of people who have, whether they have signed, maybe there might be names, but signatures are missing. So it's important to have signatures because once the BEL team member get those data, the person might remove the names which does not have signatures. So if there is no signatures, I mean, we have like, there can be instance that the people may do not have like knowledge to sign, for an example. In that case, field coordinator or a mobilizer can validate that. I mean, that would be enough. I mean, so to do these things, field person should know how they can support in terms of collecting quality data. So the quality aspects of data, it's something that the field the person who does the field monitoring needs to have. And like how the data flow, like basically how the person needs to send this data for the maybe can be like top approach to wherever the person has to send on right time. That's the most important thing. Like say for a quarterly reports, MEL team needs data information that collect during that quarter. If it comes after 2 to 3 quarters later, then no point of having that data. Just as like that. I hope I addressed that question.
Yeah, thank you. That is more explanatory in terms of the roles of a field level monitoring officer. We have a question from M. Chandrika, whether she asks whether could you please share a practical MEL practice which you are currently practicing already practice, such as MEL plan, data collection, analysis, interpretation, findings, and recommendation, just to get an overall picture. So if you can propose any references for Chandrika to refer, that would be, I think, ideal. Do you have any comment on this particular request, Sandamali?
Yeah, I would say there are plenty of materials out there. So basically, Chandrika, I would recommend you to look at what is your requirement. Like say, different donors goes with different theories. Like we do have resource-based management, we do have logical framework, and some may go with theory of change, and some may go with like traditional indicator metrics. So depending on your requirement and your donor's requirement, if it is a donor funding project, donor's requirement, you may need to find out information. And always what you call eval. Let me post some links.
Yes.
Better Evaluation might be the good website to refer information guides. And USAID maintain USAID Learning Lab, where public can access and get understanding about the practices that they are having. And I'm not exactly sure about what UN may maintain, but there are like a lot of courses that UN organizations are promoting, which is available. Those links are available in the LinkedIn if you are looking for such courses to follow.
Thanks, Sandamali. As we are now approaching our wrapping up time, I would rather take one more question from Sachin Dulanjana. He's saying that organizations often face reluctance in learning aspect of MEL due to donor funding constraints. And how can we address these challenges? So, if such a thing arises, what would be the response, Sandamali?
Exactly. So my response would be, when it's come to learning for an organization, for like, let's start with individuals. You just need to have a bit of time, focus time for you to understand your own learning, and which you may like use one of your team meeting so that you can cascade. Like once you have your own learnings, reflections about your work, you can continue that. You can transfer that to your team members with a team meeting. I mean, you don't have like a lot of resources if your intention is to do learning and adapting, because I know sometimes when you go to the adapting level, certain things like if it embedded with the resources, financial resources mainly, you may need to talk to your donor and see how you can adjust the funding budgets. But other than that, there can be like many learnings when you're implementing your programs, when you're doing work. Like say, for an example, when you feel you are overwhelmed with the procedures that you have set up through a learning, like the intentional learning, if you have evidence to tell, okay, rather than going on this path with following these procedures, we can simplify it with this path, and then we can achieve more results effectively. It's the matter of providing evidence and having a discussion, openly discussing these things and changing your ongoing implementation. And I would say culture, enabling conditions within an organization is very much important for a learning aspect. If senior, I believe there are like people who are holding leadership positions. If senior management does not encourage their staff to talk openly, if staff is reluctant to talk, thinking that it will stab their back, then learning can't occur. So it's really important to have enabling conditions. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandamali. I think with that note, we have to now enter into the last 5 minutes. But I think based on the interest shown in terms of this learning and adoption of evaluation, I think we might have to consider including that in a future webinar as well. Maybe our academic subcommittee can think of including it in a future webinar, or maybe creating it as a specific topic even. So we will look into that. So I think we have now almost come to the last 4 minutes. Pasindu, can we have the next slide? We would like to now offer this opportunity to make the, yes, these are the references, and I'm sure we will share them to the webinar participants later in the day. And the next slide, please. Yes, the next webinar that is on data collection and data collection ethics is lined up for February, and you are encouraged to join us for that webinar in 1 month's time. And then the next slide, please. To pay gratitude on behalf of the SLEvA, I now invite Mr. Jagath Senevirathna, an MNE specialist at the World Bank and an Executive Council member, to take this floor and to pay gratitude to the participants of today's seminar. Over to you, Mr. Jagath.
Hi, thanks, Ishak. So happy to see all of you. I think it's a great opportunity. I would like to, on behalf of the council, I would like to thank, first of all, to Ms.Sandamali Ariyarathna, council member, so our speaker today. I think so everyone will be had a great opportunity to understand many concepts, practical aspects, and everything. Hope you will be all have all very positive feedback about the session today. And in addition, especially moderator Hilmy Ishak, our joint secretary. Thank you very much, Hilmy, for your great contribution for the session on behalf of all the council members. Then the especially academic committee headed by Professor Hemanti Ranasinghe and her team. Thank you all members for the great contribution to complete successfully the webinar today. And hope everyone hear me properly, because sorry I'm in the field far away from Colombo. Also to the council members, the contribution, participation, all the various numerous contribution made towards achieving the successful completion of the webinar today. And also the participants, not coming from all over the world, especially Sri Lankan participants, South Asia, Asia Pacific, African region, basically across the world, several participants I noticed that. I think thank you very much for your participation and for the actively participating in the Q&A session. And also would like to see you again in the next webinar on 20th February. So once again, take this opportunity to thank you all. Happy to see all of you today. So enjoy the evening. Thank you for the president and all the entire team of council members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that thanking note, Mr. Jagath. So, dear participants, we would wrap up this webinar on the essential concepts of monitoring, evaluation, and learning in development programs. As we have said, we are planning the February webinar on data collection and data collection ethics. We do hope that you all will join us for that seminar. So we say goodbye for the day and we look forward to meeting you in 1 month's time. Thank you very much. Have a nice day to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.